Welcome to another Wednesday wisdom session here with Amazing at Home. And today I'm excited to have my guest, Amit Rosenthal from Proboxx, here with me to talk about a very important subject. And that is logistics. But from the perspective that a lot of us are doing logistics wrong. And I see this all the time, it's a struggle for us. It's something, we figure out how to sell on Amazon, we figure out how to sell in e-commerce, we pick our product, we do our thing, right? And then we're like, okay, I did the thing, I've got my packaging done, I've got everything's good, I'm ready to ship. How do I ship? And I have no idea all of the components that go into shipping, go into a shipping quote. I don't even know how to contact a freight forwarder, the process. I don't know what to do. So today we're going to talk about how you as a business owner, how you as an e-commerce entrepreneur can be better about shipping, can be better about logistics. Because if you learn some basics, this can make a huge difference, not only in how you deal with freight forwarders and how you deal with your shipping companies and even your suppliers during this process, but also in your bottom line. Because shipping can be a significant cost. Tariffs can be a significant cost. Not knowing things can cost you a lot of money. And last time we had Amit on the show, we were talking about that. We were talking about some of the mistakes people have made by like not checking their HTS codes and not understanding different things, and how sometimes those fees could be more than even the product itself, and it could eat up all of your profitability. So it's really important, the subject that we're going to talk about today. And Proboxx, they do things a little bit differently than other providers. And so hopefully you're going to learn something today, and you'll get a chance to engage with Proboxx and help them help you. And yeah, so let's get into it. Amit, thank you so much, first of all, for being one of our sponsors for the Amazing in China trip upcoming in April. Those of you who want to join us, April 24th through May 3rd, you can go to amazingathome.com/China. And Proboxx is there as a sponsor. You can click on their logo. You can go right to their virtual booth. You can check out everything that they have to offer for you, and join us in China. It's going to be great. So welcome, Amit. Tell us a little bit about you and your background.
Wow, thank you. That was a great intro. Never had this before, so thank you. I'm super happy, pleased, and exciting to have this conversation with you. And mostly, I'm super exciting to coming to Canton for this time. We don't want to jump into what happened last time, but this time for sure I'm gonna be there, and I'm super excited to meet you, to meet everybody that's coming. About myself. I'm 42 years of age. I'm the founder of Proboxx. I'm doing logistics the past, I don't know, 15 years or so, doing logistics for Amazon specific, at that niche for Amazon and Amazon sellers, e-commerce the past 5 years. I don't know, I made like through Proboxx thousands of shipments up until today for beginners, for 7, for 8-figure sellers, for aggregators. So I'm quite familiar with the process. I'm quite familiar with what, I don't know, the requirement for Amazon sellers, what you are looking for, what may be the disadvantage of you guys compared to, I don't know, a wholesaler or somebody else. But in terms of understanding the process that required with Amazon, what our Amazon sellers are looking for, I'm super familiar, and I'm happy to share my knowledge here.
I love it. Yeah, before we went live today, we were talking about, what is it that you see as some of the pain points? And I always love to talk about pain points because these are the things that people actually care about and they need to know. And it's, less of just a sales pitch for somebody's service and more about like getting down to it, like what adding value and what people need to know, what is going to make a difference for sellers. So what is the big thing that you see? You were talking about sometimes how people will just come to you and they won't have done some of the groundwork that maybe they should have done, that would put them in a better position. So talk to us about that. Like, when should people be thinking about their shipments? When should they be reaching out? What kinds of information should they have when they start looking for shipments? Let's talk about that timing and information.
Right, cool. So I would start by saying that, like, it will be maybe surprise to you, but the majority of the sellers that I'm interact with, they doesn't even know what does it mean commercial terms. So they have no idea. So I'm saying, is the shipment is EXW or FOB? What does it mean? So regardless on logistics, understanding commercial terms, right, between yourself as a seller to your vendor and your supplier is crucial in commerce in general, right? So there is a lot of definitioning difference between EXW and FOB, and there is a big difference in cost, especially as the volume increased. So the difference in cost between EXW and FOB become more crucial. So first, I would say that when and you know also the pricing unit, right? When you negotiate with a supplier with a rate of EXW or FOB, the rate for the unit itself, okay, manufacturing unit will be different. So you have to understand what does it mean exactly, and you have to come to your supplier and say, listen, I want EXW, I want FOB price. And if you want the FOB price, what is the port of loading? So I think this is the first step, and this is even when you're doing sourcing or you're doing anything related to source the product, you have to recognize that first and foremost, what's going to be the commercial terms. Okay.
Okay,
Second one, yeah,
so
please.
before we get into the second part, just to kind of make sure that I'm understanding, because I'm learning too here. So you were
Yeah,
talking about X works, so EXW or FOB, which is free on board, right?
right.
And you were saying that when you're getting prices from your supplier, the price will be different, the unit price of that product. So if I'm ordering 5,000 of these, these beautiful
Yeah,
coffee cups, I need to know what shipping terms are, and my supplier needs to know that because their pricing is going to differ based on that. And so, like you were saying, I could save money or not, and one might be better than the other, who knows? But let's talk about that. What's the difference between EXW and FOB, and why would the price of my coffee mug change based on shipping? You wouldn't think it would.
right. That's a great question, and I'm sure like you can find a lot, anyone can find a lot of information about it on the web, but I will try to explain it as simple as possible, okay? EXW basically mean that your manufacturer is responsible basically to manufacture the product and put it on his ground floor in the factory. From that point on, you have to contact the freight forwarder, and the freight forwarder should do everything from pick up the freight from your supplier yard, bring it to the port, consolidate the goods into a container, paying all the local costs in China, including the shipping line cost, all the tariff, everything, doing the custom clearance process. Okay, so basically your forwarder are responsible for everything, right?
So
Under
EXW
FOB,
means that this coffee cup stays on the floor, on the production floor, basically, or on the warehouse at my supplier's factory. And if I'm using Proboxx with EXW terms, that means Proboxx is responsible for everything from there. They got to go pick it up from my supplier. My supplier's not doing nothing. So
right,
FOB is when the supplier is responsible, right, for packaging these up. It leaves their factory and they send it where? To the nearest port for the freight forwarder to take over? where does the supplier responsibility end?
Right. So the supplier responsible basically again, he responsible for the manufacturing for sure, right? Putting everything on packages, send it over to the nearest port. Normally in the e-commerce business, we're talking about rather Shenzhen, Ningbo, Xiamen, or Shanghai. Okay. And he should also do the custom clearance process and paying all the local charges, the shipping line, and all the local charges in China. So if we're going back to your example with the coffee cup, okay, so we understand now that if we're doing EXW with our supplier, and now the forwarder have to pay all these local charges, right? So let's say now this coffee cup will cost $1, right? And
Mhm.
again, the $1 is based on only production and the goods sits in our warehouse. Now, Proboxx or any forwarder have to take responsibility. If now we're doing the FOB, so let's assume, okay, I give you like a general rate. The general rate for 40 high cube container, okay, FOB, would be roughly between 1,000 to $1,200, all right, for the 40, just the local charges in China. So we
Okay,
understand now that if your supplier have to pay this basically in your behalf, right? So the cost will not be just $1, because it will be $1.50, right? Because they have to pay this cost in advance to a freight forwarder, all right? So this cost eventually, I'm not saying compare wise, right? If you're gonna do EXW and use Proboxx to do all the locals in China, or you will ask your Chinese vendor or supplier based on FOB, eventually the overall rate of the manufacturing plus the local charges will be approximately the same. But it's about responsibility. But you have to understand that if you're saying to a vendor, I want EXW charges, right? So he gonna put the goods in his yard, and from that point on, you have to contact the forwarder and ask for a quotation. So the quotation will be eventually a bit higher, okay? The freight cost will be a bit higher EXW compared to FOB. I hope people will
right,
understand it now better.
right. So the freight costs are gonna be higher if you do EXW because if I'm using Proboxx, for example, they're now gonna have to pay not only the customs clearance charges in China, but also anything to get it to wherever its destination is. Most of us, it's the US, right? So they've
Right.
got two customs to clear. And so there's, the difference is that price besides the shipping and everything else, it's the additional customs clearance where
Not just custom clearance, it's all the local charges in China. The pickup fee, shipping line puts a lot of fees on that. So the shipping line fee, the custom clearance fee, the pickup fee, all the local fees that related to China, still in China mainland.
got it. So we understand the first thing that we should know. We should know what our commercial terms are and what kind of costs are potentially associated with those commercial terms. And what are
Right.
the expectations of the forwarder and the supplier? And then you mentioned there's another thing that we should know, a second thing. What's that?
Okay, the second thing I think is essential is, like let's split it to two. First of all, now maybe when you have the shipment data, right? What is the shipment data? So you know the commercial terms, you know how many master boxes, all right? In freight forwarding business, nobody talks about the unit size. It doesn't matter for us. We're talking about only the master carton. Now we need to talk about the master carton, the dimension, the weight, everything. Then you approach to a forwarder, right? So now the forwarder can see you as a legit, right? As a legit seller that know the business. We got the information in and we send you rate. From that point on, I saw a lot of comparisons between like Proboxx template, which we are trying to make it as simple as possible. All right, this is the rate per CBM. That's it. And to other vendor that paying basically make like a supermarket list with dozens of clauses. All right, and you don't understand the number. So it's very important, in my opinion, to understand the quotation that you are getting and to compare apple to apple, because in many cases I saw, and again, I have vast experience at that, if something look too low, okay, compared to, and again, with freight forwarding, it's a lot about trust positioning with your freight forwarder itself. If you regular to work with a freight forwarder, you have the trusting, and you get a quotation, again, just a rough number, $2,000, right? And another forwarder give you $800, something seems, it doesn't match, right? So you have to approach rather of them and say, hey, what's going on? I got this rate, and you send me this rate. Why is it, right? And I saw many, many times that people sent to me, for example, a rate request for 40 high cube. I send them over a rate, right? With door delivery, with import clearance at US side, tracking to zip, etc., and then just saying, hey, your rate was much, much higher than my competitor. Okay, so but can you show me the quotation you got? Yeah, please. I got the quotation, and then it just adds the ocean freight, but it forgets to add all the local costs. So you cannot compare apple to apple, right? So, and in my opinion, the worst case or the worst position you can put yourself, beside being out of stock, and we will talk about it shortly, is to think you have a good rate, to calculate your profitability about a specific cost, and then later on add $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 to the cost itself. So I think it's crucial to understand the basic quotation template when you receive a quotation from any freight forwarder whatsoever.
Got it. So what you're saying is that sometimes the rates, and this is what I always tell people, I say, you need to get quotes from many different freight forwarders, a few different ones, instead of just staying with the same one all the time. And maybe Amit's thinking right now, like, no, don't say that, we're trying to push Proboxx right now, but you should shop around when it comes to service providers. It's the same it's the same thing as like
Yeah,
shopping around for my services or anybody else, but at the same time, just the quote isn't always the full picture, right? Because you might not know what you're getting. In some cases, the old saying is you get what you pay for. Well, in your case, what you're saying is, yeah, if I gave you a $2,000 quote, I'm including all of the local charges, everything that you're going to expect. And this actually happened to me when I was first started selling. I didn't know. I didn't know that there was something beyond ocean freight. I was just like, oh yeah, so they're gonna put it on a boat. It's gonna get here.
yeah,
It's gonna be great,
yeah,
and that's a great rate. Like I'm gonna pay that. Cool. And then I got a phone call and they said, your stuff's at the port. I was like, I'm sorry, excuse me? Like I need it to be
yeah,
delivered. It needs to be delivered to the warehouse, like not sitting at the port. Like, what do you mean the stuff's at the port? Like, which port? What? And it was actually at the port of San Antonio. It's because I have a warehouse locally, right? So it was at the port of San
yeah,
Antonio. And this was like years ago, when I first started doing private label back in like 2017, it was. And I was like, wait, what do you mean? Like, I actually need it delivered to the warehouse. And they were like, okay, well, we can do that. It's going to be another couple $1,000, I was like,
yeah,
what? So we ended up, I learning the best lesson. We ended up renting a U-Haul because it was too expensive by that point to get it delivered a little bit, a little bit. And we ended up unloading every single box because when it comes from China, it's not on pallets. So we ended up
yeah,
unloading every single box. Hot mess. That was just, and I had no idea. And then the other thing that often happens with logistics and shipping, as you were saying with quotes, is oftentimes the clearance charges, or insurance, things like that, the additional fees beyond the freight will not be put on the quote. So you pay for it and that's all you get. So, or, they'll catch you in the in between and go, oh, you want us to take care of that? Yeah, we can take care of that. And then you get a bill. And you're like, well, I
Right.
didn't know it was going to be thousands of dollars. You didn't give me
And
that
the problem,
quote.
Amy, is that like for the folder, it's very easy. Okay, I send you a quotation, you confirm the quotation. So it's not my problem, so to speak, that you didn't read it carefully, right? So now you
Yes.
have additional 1,000, 2,000, whatever. So understand the quotation from the beginning is crucial, right? Asking the right question to the folder to understand the process, what is included, what it doesn't included is crucial. And
And if you
again,
don't
I think
see any local charges or any customs clearance charges or insurance or anything like that outlined in your quote, in your actual quote that they give you, that's kind of a red flag because you should be really, that the bill's coming later. So,
right,
you
yeah,
know,
exactly,
yeah.
exactly.
Okay, well, those are two really good things to know. So we need to know our commercial terms and we need to know what's included in those. And then we need to understand what types of things are included in a quotation for your shipment so that you're able to understand the differences between an $800 and a $2,000 quote and what might be coming later. And you don't have to rent a U-Haul like I did. And be unloading boxes. You don't want that to be your life, trust me.
Yeah, yeah, no, yeah, absolutely.
I love it. I love it.
I wish there was a V8 to like unloading boxes from containers, but that's for maybe,
That would be great. Maybe with
yeah,
AI, one
yeah,
day there
nobody
will be.
knows. Nobody knows.
So,
That's the mystery of the AI.
yeah, and so let's talk about so we talked about the things that people should know and why they should know them and what difference it can make in their prices. Um, where do you think that, I mean, sometimes it's hard to find the information, where do you think that people should start when they're really trying to understand their quotes? Should they go to their freight forwarder to explain these things? Should they hit up Google to try and understand? Because I have tried in the past to understand all the different shipping terms, and I've noticed that when you just Google them, there's so many different terms and phrases because of all of the different types of freight. So you have like ocean, you have air, you have ground, and then each one of those comes with their own terms, and it can be very, very confusing. So how do you recommend that people get educated on these things so that they can be better customers and also really have a better understanding of their quotes?
Right, that's a great question. I'll reply this in two fashion, right? The first one, I would say that Proboxx specific us trying to educate our customer via our YouTube channel, TikTok channel, Facebook, LinkedIn, whatever platform it is, we are trying to share information on that. On top of that, I think like eventually there is nothing like being like experience, right? And I think if you ask me, Amy, what differed Proboxx maybe to other freight forwarder, that if you ask me like, okay, can I save you 100, $200 per shipment? Yeah, but that's looking on the smaller detail rather on the bigger picture. And when I'm talking about the bigger picture, I think when you're talking with myself or with one of Proboxx team members, the main goal or the main goal objectively that I'm trying to give even to my colleagues is that try to educate the people with what we are looking for, right? And the reason for that is that if you as a seller now, especially if you don't have an experience, and to give you an example, today I talked with an experienced seller that shipping 45 high cube containers with thousands of units in. I don't want to say the level of expertise is differ between people, right? But you have to at least understanding the basic of the basic, right? In terms process and everything. So I think if you ask me what is the best way to educate yourself on logistics is first and foremost contact your freight forwarder. That will be a great starting point for yourself to evaluate if the forwarder is legit or not, right? If he is responsive, if he's getting the information in, if he's trying to share his knowledge, review, eventually in order to simplify the process for you and to cut the cost, to me, that sounds like somebody that you want to work with, right? I don't saying don't get another quote to compare, right? But at least go with the one that you feel trust in giving your goods too, right? Because remember, some of the order can be maybe 5K, but some of the order can be 50K and 100K and so on. So you really want to give, you know, all of your money in some kind, right, to somebody that you know and you're sure that will be able to accomplish your goal, right? So I think the first priority when you are talking to any freight forwarder or a new freight forwarder, besides sending me like a simple quotation, this is the quotation, get a quote, later on contact him, ask him questions, try to understand their process, how do they work, what they exactly they need from you in order to start the process and so on, and get the feeling, you know, eventually with any service provider, even like yourself, you know, when you're doing consulting, if I'm approaching you, I try to get the feel, like what's the vibe, right? Is it like is Amy is a legit one? I'm sure yeah, you are 1000% right, but try to get the vibe and the feel from the vendor that you are talking with. I think that's the most critical part in order to get a decision with whom you want to work with. And I think on that, Proboxx put like a huge flag in front of us that customer service and customer care is the most important thing for us, and we are trying to deliver it as much as possible when we need it.
I love that. I think that that is really great advice. And that was actually what made me go with my very first forwarder, and still getting quotes from them today, was exactly that, that they actually took the time to explain things to me, right? And
Right.
I was a brand new seller and didn't really know. I was just getting all these quotes, and that was the only provider that actually took the time to answer my questions and explain, and it was more than just a quote. And I think that that's
Yeah.
what's so beautiful about Proboxx is that you guys really are so much more than just a quote. You really do care about educating your customers. You care about transparency in terms of your quotations, in terms of everything that you do. You care about providing service, and I think this is key. You care about providing service in the in between the shipments, building relationships with your customers and making sure that you are helping them not only with their current shipment, but what's the next one? How can we look ahead in our business? How can we make sure that every shipment from here on out that we're getting the best price, but also taking care of our goods and, you know, thinking ahead for what works best for this particular product, this particular supplier, and the shipping process that we need to be able to follow. So you talked a little bit about saving money on shipments. And I know that that's something that every seller out there, if they're listening right now, they're like, wait, can you ask them about saving money on shipments? Because
Yeah.
we all want the cheap rates, right? Which I'm sure drives all of the freight forwarders nuts, because, you know, you're like, wait, you know, this guy gave me $800 quote and you just gave me a $2,000 quote. And so, you know, I think people should be encouraged to work with their freight forwarder on saving money on their shipments. So let's talk about that. What are some ways that you can save money on your shipments?
Right. That's the question, right? With any freight forwarder, honestly, like, so let's start maybe by defining who is responsible for the rate itself. Okay, so we have to recognize one point. Shipping in general, it's all about supply and demand, all right? as the demand is higher and the supply is lower, the freight rate will increase. Okay, we see this like crazy during the pandemic, right? We see this now before the CNY holiday that happened.
Mhm.
The one that is responsible for eventually the freight charges is the shipping line. Okay, the shipping line is the one that determine the freight rate. They determine if the freight rate will increase or decrease. We see this during the pandemic. I will just give you like rough numbers. Okay, during the pandemic, ocean freight, port to port only, let's say from Shanghai to Los Angeles, reached highest rate ever recorded, I don't know, 18,000, $20,000 per 40 high cube. Then during 2023, sorry, it reached down to like 2,000, right? So understand that doesn't matter eventually the freight forwarder buying this freight rate from the shipping line directly. So the one that basically determined the freight, if the rate will be higher this time of the year or lower, it's the shipping line. Okay. With that said, if you ask myself, okay, and this is the main key on how you can work with your freight forwarder for a long term and get a better result, is that your freight forwarder must understand what is your needs in terms of inventory and when the inventory need to be and whatever warehouse it is. Okay. Why is it? Okay. Because let's say you are now approaching a freight forwarder. You said, okay, hey, I have next shipment ready in 2 weeks. Great. Where is it shipping to? Okay. We don't know what is your inventory stock level now. We don't know what is your selling velocity. We have no idea about it, right? And I'm sure most sellers never talk about it with their folders, okay? But there is a lot of different solution in terms of like transit time or service type or service level, okay? Express, regular, super express. There is multiple difference that we can ship the goods faster from China to USA, okay? So when I'm talking about reducing your overall logistics cost, I'm not talking about a specific shipment. I'm talking about overview of your shipment requirement. Because if you will know, okay, that you can, let's say, use Super Express service for a specific shipment, okay, again, the goal is always to be in stock, right? I mean, you understand it better than myself in terms of selling on Amazon or selling in general. You want to have stock, otherwise you are not a seller, right?
Yep, true.
So so let's say there is now your sales went to the roof, you are almost out of stock, you need stock in. Okay, so we can ship Super Express in order to keep you in stock, but in the other way around, the freight rate will be higher compared to regular service. So I think the first thing you have to do is to contact your freight forwarder and ask, and listen carefully, guys, ask what's going to be the real or the approximately transit time from once the cargo is picked up until the delivery time. Because people don't understand that, let's say we pick up the goods today, February 26th, it will not departed from China earlier, or earliest will be around March 5th, all right? So it's normally take about 10 days to 2 weeks from the moment we pick up the freight until the actual departure from China, okay? From whatever port it is. Then it's totally different story if you have an FBA or you assign to an FBA in the West Coast or in the East Coast. It's a totally different ball game in terms of transit time. So in order to have a better supply chain, okay, or better, I don't know, yeah, better supply chain management, you have to know what is the real transit time for any destination from China to US, and you have to calculate the times it's taking from pickup until it's departed, everything that can go wrong, if there is custom inspection, it's taking 2 weeks approximately, then the transit time. So you have to put all the factors in order to understand when you have to start production, how long is it gonna take, right? And then eventually you want always to ship by regular service. You don't want to pay extra for faster service, right? You want to pay the lower rate by regular service. But in order to do so, you have to start production on time. And to understand when you need to start production, you have to understand transit time. You have to understand the process, and you have to understand what can go wrong. So without those factors, you will never be able to calculate your stock or when you need to start basically production, regardless of the software that you are working with, all right, of supply management tool. So understanding the transit time and understanding everything that can go wrong through the process is essential in order to get the right data. Eventually, I can tell you that I have a client that because it like doesn't matter how much I try to train him and to explain him, we always found ourselves in a position that he need to send it by Super Express, but he pay almost double the rate per cubic meter if he would ship it by regular, right? So if you ask me how you can save cost on your shipping, is not by looking into a specific shipment, is looking on the overall picture, understanding transit time, understanding your selling velocity, when you need to stock in, where the stock need to go, and by that you are able to calculate better, and then you will be able to decrease your overall logistics cost throughout the year, and not for a specific shipment.
Got it. Makes sense. So if we want to save money, we need to understand what our options are in terms of transit time, right? What it's going to take from pickup all the way to delivery. And we need to be thinking ahead because, as you mentioned, there's going to be different freight rates throughout the year. But if we're always having to ship things super express or something like that to keep in stock, then it doesn't really matter. Like we're just going to be behind the power curve every single time. But like right now during Chinese New Year, like freight rates go way up because everybody's trying to ship to get their stuff out before Chinese New Year. But there's only so much space on like the ships that go. There's only so much space. So what happens? The price goes up. But if we had done as Amit told us to do, and that is calculate our inventory ahead of time, calculate delivery timelines, figure out, the different rates throughout the year and work with your freight forwarder. And it sounds like Proboxx is ready to work with you on this, work with your freight forwarder to really understand what your options are so that you can get ahead of it. You can stay in stock, you can pay the best rates for your freight, and you can ensure that you are the most profitable that you can be, and you're saving money at the end of the day on shipping. I love it. I love the overall focus on managing your business in a way that is more effective and efficient, because that is what is going to get you ahead in the whole picture, because logistics is one piece of the whole picture of sellers, right? So I love that you guys are focused on, yes, we're one piece. Proboxx is here to give you that one piece, but we're also here to help you think ahead about all the other pieces of your business so that we can be an effective puzzle piece for you. So I love it. Thank you, Amit, for sharing your knowledge with us today. Thank you to Proboxx for being one of our sponsors of the Amazing in China trip. And, we can't wait to do this with you. I know I'm going to learn so much from you. I already did, we had Kathy from Proboxx on the last trip, and I learned everybody, like we were all learning. Kathy did a workshop teaching us all about these shipping terms and everything, and everybody learned something that really, really helped them. And so Proboxx was just such a good partner for us, and we're so excited to have you guys again. And you guys, I tell everybody, like, Proboxx is different. Get out there, get a quote, work with them on helping them be the puzzle piece for all the pieces of your business to work together. And you guys can visit us at amazingathome.com/China. And you scroll down, you see the Proboxx label right there, the Proboxx logo. Click there and you'll see Proboxx's page. They might just have a special offer for you. You can always visit Proboxx.io as well. Check out their blogs, check out their YouTube channel, you know, learn all the things. They're ready to engage with you. They're ready to help you build better shipments. They're ready to help you have a more profitable business overall. So thank you, Amit, again for being here, and we'll see you guys in China.
Exciting. Thank you.